The process has once again failed. This is my second summer in a row making a video like this, but this time our topic of discussion is a little bit different. Last summer I focused on Joel Embiid, saying he was the individual who needed to be traded to help push the 76ers to the top of the Eastern Conference and fight for a championship, but obviously I ended up being mostly incorrect. My reservations about Embiid are not about his basketball skills. In fact, he was the front runner to be the league MVP this season for many months, but that's the point. Injuries always, and I do mean always, derail his years. Embiid has never appeared in more than 64 games, only breaking 60 twice in his career. I know these past 2 years were weird, 66-ish games and 72 games respectively, but once again, injuries held him down to just 51 games both times. No matter how you spin it, durability is one of the most important pieces in making a great basketball player legendary. It is what has held back guys like Blake Griffin, Kyrie Irving, and even Zion Williamson thus far. Going into his age 27 season, the clock is ticking and playoff runs cannot be wasted anymore. Ben Simmons just wasted one of Embiid's last legendary playoff runs. Ever since entering the NBA, Simmons has been what he is. An elite, and I do mean elite, defensive player who honestly should have won Defensive Player of the Year award this past year, as well as a great passer and rim attacker. The problem is his shooting. Revolutionary statement there, am I right? Simmons is afraid to shoot jump shots. Less than 10% of his field goal attempts are outside of 10 feet from the basket, and less than 2% are beyond the free throw line. Even the league's other legendary players, who have a hard time shooting the long ball like Giannis Antetokounmpo or even LeBron James, shoot the ball at least a little bit in order to keep defenses honest. Coupling with his fear of missing jump shots is his absolute horrendous foul shooting. Simmons is a career 59% free throw shooter, rivaling the like of Dwight Howard and Andre Drummond. This is a point guard we are talking about, a guy who has the ball in his hands in crunch time and is needed to get points in the playoffs. This past postseason, the Atlanta Hawks embarrassed Simmons by fouling him so much that he was left unplayable for the good of the Sixers team. He shot an abysmal 34% from the free throw line in the playoffs. 25 of 73. That is a record that nobody wants. So now the 76ers are stuck. Embiid is amazing, but injury prone, and Simmons is remarkably consistent, but is not expanding his game. So how do you fix this? Well, the recent chatter is a trade for Ben. No matter where you look, trade rumors revolving around Ben Simmons are rampant, and I have been excitedly refreshing my feed to see when the deal will go down. Yet here we are on Sunday the 22nd of August, and Simmons remains a Sixer. I guess I need to jump in here and give my thoughts on possible moves for the front office to pick from and get the deal done. A couple ground rules. Each one of the trades I've created is a 2-team deal, as 3-team trades get a whole lot more complicated and I don't want to sit there and think about it. I want to keep this simple. Also, I recognize the salaries may not align perfectly, so in cases where this happens, expect to see either Matisse Thybulle and or Tyrese Maxey thrown into the mix. No knock on these two young talents, but this is a Simmons trade video, not theirs. Now, let us get started. 5 possible Ben Simmons trades. In the first deal, we have Ben headed to a team that has been well known to already have expressed interest in him, the Indiana Pacers, in exchange for Malcolm Brogdon and Jeremy Lamb. The deal that fell through featured only Brogdon, so I figure adding Lamb sweetens the offer just enough. Brogdon is a no-nonsense, talented, and in his prime point guard on a reasonable 2-year deal. He has proven he can be an exceptional playmaker alongside all-star bigs, along with shooting an above-average long ball. Durability has been an issue lately in his career, but any team relying on Embiid obviously is just hoping for the best. Lamb, meanwhile, is a 1-year rental veteran shooter who plays good perimeter defense. His presence would add insurance to a 2-guard rotation already featuring Seth Curry and Danny Green, which is pretty stinking good. Meanwhile, Indiana makes this deal to hopefully push their team into the playoffs. Simmons, next to Karis LeVert, TJ Warren, Miles Turner, and Domantas Sabonis, is one of the best starting fives in the entire league. Plus, hopefully adding Thibault strengthens a very weak second unit. To me, this is one of the most logical trades in this video. Next, we see Ben headed to the Cleveland Cavaliers in exchange for Colin Sexton and Kevin Love. I know some of you guys are going to laugh at that deal, but those who truly watch basketball and appreciate the little things will see how this move helps both sides greatly. Sexton is everything Simmons is not. He is an ultra-aggressive scorer who can shoot the long ball at an above-average rate. Plus, Sexton is actually younger than Simmons and far cheaper, though he would need to be re-signed to stick with the team beyond 2022. To me and a select few others, it is amazing how disrespected Sexton is as a player. Honestly, I see similarities to how his career began to how Kyrie Irving's career started a few years ago. Once the opportunity to play alongside other great players comes, the world will realize how great he truly is. Love, meanwhile, is a bit over the hill. The Cavs have been kicking themselves for re-signing him ever since he inked his name on that contract. But on the bright side, he is only 33, and he only has 2 years left on his contract, so he is not necessarily just a dead weight contract. He can still shoot the long ball, which would benefit spacing out the floor for Embiid to create inside the arc, and he is still an exceptional rebounder for his size. Philly would be one of the best rebounding teams in the NBA, with Embiid, Love, and Drummond all out there. For the Cavs, the addition of Simmons adds all-star talent to a barren wasteland of a franchise. Interest here in Ohio is very low. He may bring fans to the arena, he may bring eyes to the games on TV. I don't personally think this is a good deal, though. I don't think it makes the Cavs a whole lot better, if better at all. Jared Allen cannot shoot threes, and they just inked him for a long-term deal. And their top whatever lottery pick, Evan Mobley, didn't really shoot threes in college either. So this creates a very inside-the-arc heavy lineup. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but it is tough to make this work. If I were the Cavs, I would not do this trade. But as an outsider looking in on this dysfunctional franchise, I could definitely see them doing it. Next, I have Ben going to the Toronto Raptors in exchange for Goran Dragic and OG Anunoby. This may not look like enough for Ben Simmons, and okay, I'll throw in some draft picks or Malachi Flynn or whatever. The point is, Dragic and Anunoby are the big pieces here. Despite his accomplishments being thrown aside by most, Dragic is a very good veteran point guard who has a lot of experience winning games. Not even a year ago, he was putting up 19-4 in the playoffs on a Miami Heat team that made it to the finals. He can still play. His outside shooting is at the very least average, and his playmaking is very good. He only has 1 year on his deal, making this not a long-term commitment. Anunoby, meanwhile, is a younger, defensive-minded piece that should complement Embiid and Tobias Harris nicely. He can space the floor and do the little things on both ends of the floor to help the Sixers win. This may not seem like a ton, but I really like this move for Philly. Meanwhile, Toronto avoids having to rebuild. Simmons, at 25 years old, joins fellow proven win-now guys Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet as they work to keep the Raptors in the playoff picture. My fourth trade features Ben going to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for Kristaps Porzingis and one other role guy. In this case, I have Dorian Finney-Smith, but it could be one of several guys. Porzingis, like Simmons, was just torn apart for a lackluster playoff performance that cost his team. But looking on the bright side, we see an elite shooter who can create looks anywhere on the floor, along with protecting the rim at potentially an elite rate. That is peak Kristaps. Ignore his most recent 7 games of lackluster play, and there is not a whole lot of criticism to point at him. I imagine a change in scenery and playing alongside a not-so-ball-dominant superstar would be good for his career moving forward. Then Finney-Smith adds a little more depth to this team at the forward spots. The only somewhat negative note about this deal is it forces Tyrese Maxey to be the lead ball handler for Philly, and I think he can do it. But I understand if you believe the need for a point guard in return to make any Ben Simmons trade work. In Dallas, Simmons may be the missing piece Luka Doncic needs to push the Mavs into a deeper playoff run. Doncic is one of the league's best shot creators for both himself and others, but you cannot deny how beneficial it would be to their team to not have him constantly run everything. The ball in Ben's hands will benefit everyone, and his defensive abilities will also take a load off the Mavs' collective backs. This could be the move to save two franchises. And lastly, the deal you all have been waiting for. I have been headed to the Portland Trail Blazers in exchange for Damian Lillard. This would be a groundbreaking, earthquaking, hecka crazy move that would reshape the league. Lillard is the best player that could potentially be moved for Simmons. You guys know what he does. He gets buckets for himself and his teammates. He is durable, consistent, and seems to always rise for every crunch time occasion. The Sixers were contending last year. They may be the team to beat if Lillard joins the fray. Then out west, what comes of the Blazers? They have been stuck in no man's land for a while now. One Western Conference Finals run 3 years ago was pretty cool, but in 4 of the past 5 years, they saw themselves get eliminated in the first round. 3 times, I believe, were sweeps. This is the definition of stuck in the middle. Their front office consistently failed to put the necessary pieces around Lillard to push the team over the top. Besides CJ McCollum, who has Lillard gotten to play with? Yusuf Nurkic, who at his absolute best may be, and I do mean may, be a top 50 player in the league? An old Carmelo Anthony? An overpaid Robert Covington? And drafting and internal development has just not been there either. Anthony Simmons is pretty much their lone, decently high potential young player, and he still isn't doing a whole lot for them. Simmons gives the Blazers hope. He is only 25 and under contract for 4 more years. I see his addition keeping the team competitive while also setting their timeline back 5 or so years. Simmons will continue to develop alongside Thibault and Maxey, since they both most likely will join Simmons here to help the contracts match. This is the deal that needs to be done. So there you have it. Ben Simmons will be traded soon, hopefully before the start of the 2022 season, for both teams' sake. I would love to hear your guys' opinion on these moves, as well as what other moves you think are likely. I know Sacramento has been tossed around a bit, as has San Antonio and Minnesota. Who do you think gets moved there? Please like the video, subscribe for more basketball content, and I will see you all next time.